Yo, can you hear us?
Yeah, not bad. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Boy.
Nice
So,
backdrop.
yeah, thanks. I was telling your brother I've been doing Zoom magic shows for like the local schools and the children's hospital. So, when I retired a couple years ago, my stress level went from 10 to 0. And
Yeah.
my wife said, well, it's stuff you like to do. So, I had, an entertainment company kind of going on the side for a little bit. So I got that going, and then this documentary came along, and I've been doing a lot of other things. I'm working on a show called Celebrate, Broadway show Celebrate, which uses the songs of Three Dog Night. So now you guys know Three Dog Night. I tell people, oh yeah, I'm doing a show with Three Dog Night. Three Dog who? What? Who? So
It's gonna be a cool.
yeah, but anyway, oh, thanks for getting on the Zoom with me, and I was telling your brother John, you and I have been talking, and it had a very interesting story. Now I was on the pier from '66 to '71, so a good number of summers. And as you guys know, the ratio of guys to girls was 1 to 100. And so
Right.
it was a good time. It was a good time. So a lot of good stories. But as I say, when I retired, working on some projects, I ran into Roxy Grant. That's Tony Jr.'s daughter and Tony Sr.'s granddaughter. And then I proposed to her that we try and do a documentary, and so I put a document together, and so she signed off on it, and then the quest began. Just went on Facebook there and just asked people to send me stuff, and so I've been doing a bunch of Zooms, and the goal here is probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks, once I get some of these Zooms back in, we'll go edit into the edit room. We'll do some edits, and I try to get a 4 minute to 5 minute max out, like a teaser reel. Um, we'll probably budget somewhere around 75 to 125,000 to do, a real documentary with a film crew and all that. And so, depending on the stories that I get back, there's Act One, which is really the history of the Steel Pier, because the whole idea of this is ultimately for me is to make some money, but also um, a family in Idaho who have never been to the East Coast. They have any idea what the Steel Pier is, and why would they care to hear a story about one man, inspiring thousands of young people to go on to inspire others. And so we start with history, and then a lot of these little vignettes of, stories like yourselves, about being on the pier, and kind of what you've done since then. And then Act Three would be 2 or 3 stories that have lineage that would go, my grandparents were in the theater, I started dancing, my parents was that, and then down the line, and now they are or have done things that have inspired others. So as you know, there's a lot of stories about dance girls that did dancing and then went on and started studios. But there are a few that went on and did some really remarkable things, not only through their dance studios, but with the local schools and what have you. The point being, here's the overarch is Tony Grant Sr., one guy, inspired thousands of young people who went on with their careers to end up inspiring thousands of others. And that's the kind of story, the bookend to the story, once we write it, is going to be. Hopefully you enjoyed this story of one man, but thousands of others who had wonderful memories from this time period. But look in your community, your religious leaders, your coaches. There are inspirers all around you. So think who inspired you to be who you are, and go thank them while they're still here. That's kind of the bookend message that we'd be looking for. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Makes sense. Sounds good.
Yeah, and then the whole ultimate goal would be sometime in 2020, where are we, 2021, 22, we would sponsor a gala in Atlantic City, and hopefully people would be able to fly in and spend, Friday night and a Saturday night gala. I talked to Frankie Avalon's manager. I wanted him to come and sing. He was one of the stars, from Tony Grant, and then we would have some of us that would agree to perform. I don't know if you know David Brown. He was David Brown. Okay. And I'm trying to set him up that he's going to sing now. And my son's a producer with Luma Pictures, an animation studio in LA. And what he's telling me is he could take, like David Brown, his picture of him when he was, looked like Tom Jones back when he was like 8 or 9 years old. And if he sings the song, he can animate that picture, take that picture and animate it with David's voice, his current voice. And so for a documentary, to put those kinds of things in, I said, I'd love to be able to get like one of the dance lines and actually have him animate the dance line from the picture with the old songs. So some really creative things, expensive to do, but we'll see. And the same thing with you guys, once we talk a little bit, are there some fun things that you guys might be able to do, beyond, just being on a Zoom call or what have you. So, all right, I'm done talking.
Can I tell you
Yeah, go.
the David Brown thing for a second? David, about a year ago, reached out to me through text, and we were talking, and my brother was having some health stuff, so we were talking about him and kind of support of him and what we might do. And somehow he ended up talking about changing his career a little bit and going into music a little bit and becoming a singer. And would you like to play drums? And yeah, I'm going to put something together in the Jersey, Atlantic City area. If you're interested, let me know. And I said, sure, man, let me know. So it's kind of funny that you say this could happen because we've already started talking about that. So
wonderful. Oh, see, that's cool. And I have to set him up on a Zoom, which will be kind of cool too. So I'm finding that, now that I kind of started this and I've been, probably annoying some people on the Tony Grant Facebook, I know Chris Collins well, but there's a lot more people posting now, and I'm seeing a lot more pictures and people putting pictures up, and which is kind of cool. So that's an interesting connection that you made with David. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know who wants to kind of go first, or if you tag in. So when did you guys first appear on Tony Grant, and how old were you, each of you? I don't know who's the older or the younger.
Well, we were talking about that a little bit before the call. The specificity on the years is a little bit gray. We remember it's probably about 1971. So pretty much when you were on your way out, we were on our way in. And John and I had actually done some magic prior to that. We put together some things. We did something at Wolf Trap Farm Park. I actually have a little bit of a memento from Wolf Trap Farm Park, and that was just kind of a great outdoor venue. I think we were a part of some kind of an art show back then, so a little bit of public appearances as well as birthday parties and things like that.
Right,
so
right.
then, finally Tony Grant's came around, and we had a lot of history with Atlantic City. My grandmother had a place in Atlantic City, so we go down the shore all the time. My grandfather was there. We got to know him well. He loved the beach. It was cool. So we had a relationship with Atlantic City. And we actually had a little relationship with the Tony Grant Stars Tomorrow show before we even became a part of it.
Okay.
Going there and seeing the show. And, we started as ventriloquists before we even thought about magic. And ventriloquism was kind of hot back then. And there was definitely a lot of that on the show. So we kind of, took our influences from that and started grooming our skills to become performers in some kind of a way. Our parents loved entertainment. My mom, she was a groupie of a guy from the 50s by the name of Johnny Ray. And we knew him as a family member, really close.
Wow.
And he would perform on the Steel Pier all the time. So my mom used to go to the Steel Pier, and that's where we kind of connected very deeply with Steel Pier. And the opportunity to come on the show came up. We auditioned for Tony down at his dance studio, probably in about, 1971, something like that. Got on the show, as magicians, had a blast. So that's kind of where it started for us.
Right.
And, morphed from there, friendships, lots of performances. We did it for probably 5 or 6 years until the end.
Till the end, 78, so around 78. Where did you grow up? Were you close to Atlantic City? Or
we were in Northern Virginia, Springfield, Virginia. So
Okay.
probably about a 4.5, 5 hour ride.
Wow.
Pretty good stuff.
It was one of the things that I liked the most before Atlantic City was there was a magic shop in Springfield, Virginia's shopping center. And I started going there all the time because I would want to see what was going on, all sorts of things. I was probably 12 or 13 years old. Well, the guys that owned the thing were trying to find other people who could help them. So they checked out what I was doing and, had me doing a bunch of different things, teaching people what was going on. In the thing, I was standing behind the
counter. You were behind the counter. You were one of the guys behind the magic counter.
Bingo, yeah. And just so you know, when I'm speaking, I just had a stroke, a really bad stroke back in January 19th of last year. And so there may be times when I'm thinking about something like, what you just said, and I know exactly what it is, but my mind is going, boo, and it just goes zooming off. And so if I do that, it's not because I'm stupid. It's because, well, maybe it's because I'm stupid, but it's probably because of the stroke. But yeah, I'd go there and I'd do all these things. And these guys would take off. The actual magicians, they'd take off and be gone for 5 or 6 hours, and I'd be doing things and pressing things around. And there's a couple times that I probably went home with my own stuff that catches on fire.
Flash paper.
You guys know what it is.
Flash paper.
Flash
Yep.
paper.
Cups and balls. You are proficient with cups and balls, yes?
Yep. He was
Yes.
the
Cups and balls.
John was the real magician amongst us. He had the gift of gab on stage. He liked to talk. He'd do the patter. He definitely did good with the close-up magic, and that's why he was great behind the counter while these guys went off and had lunch or whatever they did.
Right.
John
for the day.
working before he was allowed to be working.
Wow. Well, you have to remind me.
It was fun.
Yeah, just to digress a bit, I'm still working on another documentary called Behind the Magic. I don't know if you know Wayne Hoffman. You can Google Wayne Hoffman. He's a younger guy. I think he's around 38, a mentalist. And I basically learned magic from Roy Mingus in Reading, Pennsylvania. Same kind of thing, going behind the counter. He was an old-time magician, and that's how I kind of learned. He introduced me to dove magic. I do a lot of used to do a lot of dove magic, now I'm starting up again. But the whole documentary is actually travel around the world to brick and mortar magic shops. And we would go in and visit the shops, talk to the owners, get the history. And that's kind of behind the magic documentary. That's another one I'm working on. But that's a kind of cool story. That's a really kind of cool story, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been a bunch of different things in my life. One of them took me out to Vegas all the time, and I used to go to all the magic stores in Vegas. There were a couple of them, not necessarily in a place where everybody was going to spend their money, but we were off to the back of it. And it was an incredible place with a lot of fantastic magicians. And I bought stuff, but never got good at it because it was all really complicated for who I was at that time. And have you ever heard of Tim Glancy?
Tim Clancy?
Glancy with a G.
No.
Tim had been doing magic all of his life. And he started doing magic down in Florida, around Orlando in that area. And he started doing this thing for the basketball team there. It was just called Magic that he was doing. And they were called Magic. And he would come out and they'd be doing something like, there was a big timeout for something. So he'd come out with a big something with four things on it. And he'd put a girl in there. He would take one of the people that was
broadcaster.
People that was, what's that?
Like one of the broadcasters? No,
one of the people that was. Hang on one second. Somebody's trying to get in here. Hello.
It's all right. So Joe, were you able to find the?
I did not find the sword.
Okay.
So it's actually a sword through the neck trick.
Right.
I found the
gimmick. Yeah, the does John know? Yeah. Okay. All right. Welcome back, John. Okay. So
I'm
let
sorry.
me. That's okay. So let me ask you a couple questions, John. So magic was kind of your thing. Do you guys have any recordings of you, video recordings? I know in '71, so that would probably take you into the '80s or something like that, doing magic. Yeah, nothing like that.
Sadly not. I mean, our parents did, 8 millimeter film numbers of things in our lives, but for some reason that just escaped them. Never film us doing our art. We don't. We don't.
Okay. Have you ever converted your parents' 8 millimeter film to digital?
We have
I don't
not
think so.
personally. I don't even know where that exists, if it even does anymore.
Okay, yeah, because my father, he has a couple, not with me on the stage, Tony, but like backstage stuff in the Clarendon, and it was all on 8 millimeter, and he had reels and reels and reels of this stuff. He was just, I don't think he was ever on the film because he was always shooting it. But I sent it off to Legacy Box, the company, and they just took and converted everything to Windows Media files. So, but I mean, if you ever find it, that'd be kind of cool.
I wish I could say that we have. I just don't think it exists.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That was a really wonderful place to live. The place, the Clarendon.
Clarendon, yeah. Is that where you guys
Yeah, that was
stayed?
just a wonderful. Yeah,
Definitely for a couple of 2-3 years, we stayed at the Clarendon,
Okay.
and
that was great.
we didn't hang out there a ton. We used it for what it was for us, which is a motel.
Right.
We definitely ran around town and did a lot of crazy things in the rest of the time we were there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a blast there. I remember you could climb out the window and get onto the roof of the hotel next door. And they had a pool that was over another fence, and somehow some of the girls from one of the shows was staying over there, and we'd meet up on the roof.
Right. Yeah. Well, I recall. Now I stayed all summer. So 1969, 70, and 71. I stayed all summer, and my best friend was Steve Kay. He was a singer, and we worked with Tony Jr. So we did the evening shows, and then Chris's brother Mike Collins, he did the morning shows with Tony Sr. And we stayed at the Clarendon. I stayed in a small room. If you went past the front desk and went to the left, was the men and women shower, community shower and bathroom, and there was a little room back near the boiler room. That's where I stayed. Had a bed and a sink in it, and it was just great. It was I paid $25 a week to stay in that little room, and all summer long. Yeah, and I think I told you one of the girls wanted to try and get in my room. She jumped out the second floor into the pool, and then climbed out of the pool and broke through the window to get into my room. And I'll stop right there.
It's tough times back then.
Yeah, it was. So, tell me about whoever wants to talk about when you were on Tony, the routine that you guys did. What was kind of your signature performance for him?
Well, I think we only got a few minutes. I can tell you the background music. The background music was always Tijuana Brass. My dad was way into Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, and it was influencing our lives all the time. So it just seemed to work well for our show. It didn't have any vocals, so it was good for background. And if you had some patter to go over top, it was pretty easy. So Herb Alpert. We had a homemade. I think I have a picture of it. Yeah, it was a homemade. This is our one pick, but that actually came from a blacklight poster that I cut out, and we attached it to the front of this particular table. It was a portable table. This is a second Magic Duo table. This is the first one that was portable. The other one not so portable. So so we came up with this so we could get to Atlantic City and utilize it. But that was the table that we brought out onto stage. What you're looking at there is this was probably the typical outfit for the majority of the time we were there. This was in the movie theater. I think I had like 3 outfits and John had 2 collectively during our entire stay as magicians there. But the attire kept changing and evolving. That trick, the knife through the throat there.
Right.
That was like the grand finale trick. We had, I think, a couple other tricks each. I had some kind of a teapot trick, a teapot that poured out colored water, and then you'd remove some silks out of it afterwards. So that was kind of a basic parlor type trick.
Right.
And John did the candelabra trick. I remember it was vanishing candles. I believe that was the shtick on that, wasn't it, John?
Yeah.
And then we did the finale. I think we had time for 3 tricks, and that was pretty much, that was the core of it. And
John, can you tell me what the finale was? Do you remember what the finale was, John?
Well, the finale for Joe and I was that one that you were seeing with we would do the thing between my neck, the sword going through my neck, and then there'd be a thing at the end, bada bum bum bada bum. We'd be like dancing as that was going on, and Joe would be going through my neck, and that was us. I think the finale I did when I did my own show there was a torn and restored newspaper.
Yeah. So, John, so do you know any idea where that prop is, where you stick the sword through your neck? Do you have any idea where that might be?
I wish I did. That would be great. Joe, do you have that?
What, you mean like this?
That's the one.
Oh man! When Joe told me about that, I said, "You got to go on the hunt and find that." And then your face, John, is priceless, man.
That's the one.
That trick, and I remember that trick was either done well or done poorly. And when that trick was done poorly, you looked over the right and said, Joe, because I was actually stabbing you in the neck, So there was a couple options: do the trick right, do the trick wrong. If I did the trick wrong, I get the look. I don't think you ever said, "Hey." I don't think I heard any words, but I definitely got the look.
Side we're going in.
It's a wonder Tony was okay with that, sticking a sword through your neck.
Yeah,
he was fun. He was fun. We didn't do anything that was horrible. That was out of a community, and I think because we danced at the end and because we did that, it made everybody feel like it was okay. We didn't have a whole lot of blood pouring from my neck.
Right. Yeah. The variety. Your show sounded, your act sounded like a variety, which was something that Tony always needed on the stage, because everybody was dancing or tap dancing or acrobatics, and coming on and doing that. Tell me about the ventriloquist component, though, because that's what I started on Tony as a ventriloquist, and then did my magic later. So that's kind of cool.
I think that was just a fascination that both of us had before. I remember John had Charlie McCarthy, and I had Mortimer Snerd, the country bumpkin sidekick. And I think that was just something that we did for the family. At family gatherings, the ventriloquist styles would come out. My grandmother was funny this way. This is my mom's mom from Atlantic City. I remember every year during the holidays, she'd have us do some kind of a song or some kind of a reading. It was a big deal back then to sort of perform for the family. We all had our different Christmas, recitation that we had to give. It was kind of a pressure thing back then, but the desire to kind of get you out of your shell, was there. So ventriloquist was that. I think I kind of carried that a little bit longer than John. I stuck with it, and I thought maybe I'd make something of it, but magic came along, and ventriloquism went to sleep for us. So it was just the beginning, though.
Wow. So, John. I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
I was just thinking that I had so many different appreciation for magic, and we went to New York and went to I'm trying to remember the name of the magic place there.
Tannins.
It was a big. What's that?
Tannins.
Tannins. We went there, and we saw the magic show while we were there, and met the guy who was the star of it.
Doug
I don't remember
Henning.
his name because
Yeah, that's right. Doug Henning. Doug Henning.
Yeah.
Canadian
That was
magician.
it was
He
just
was
a
our-
different. It was a different lifestyle than just about any of my other friends had, because they were football and baseball and that sort of shit, and I really loved magic, and I loved magic. And as I was getting out of grade school and into high school, I really loved theater. I'd love to be part of the theater, and I took that a long way off of in my life, because I was a lighting designer for a long time when I first started. Then I was off with a lot of bands for about 8 or 10 years. I was with bands every day, and then all over the country and all over the world. And then I decided to get married because nobody wanted to marry a guy who was in the theater. And so I tried to find something else, and I just couldn't do it. I ended up becoming, in the end, I owned a special effect company. I had that for about 15 years. And then I went back into, when I was down at Key West, I went back into my lighting design stuff. And I was the lighting designer for 5 out of the 6 companies that were there, and just had a great time and made a few dollars. But it was just so much fun to do all that stuff and be just involved with entertainment.
Right.
It was really cool.
What are you doing now?
Now I'll be quite honest with you, because that's the way I always am. I had that stroke, and it took away just about everything that I'd ever done. And I can't get on a ladder probably ever again. So being a lighting designer around here is going to be weird. I'm in Arizona right now.
Right.
And I went through all the crap because this coronavirus too that was here right when I was getting out of the hospital. All of a sudden that kicked in, and it was just bad. But what I think I'm going to do, and maybe there'll be some magic involved just for the fun of it. I'll do some cups and balls or something like that. But what I really want to do is I want to teach the adults and children that have a stroke, and teach them how to get out of out of the problem they're in right now. It's a terrible problem for the things that most people have, because like me, I was 2.5 weeks out of mind, and I nobody could talk to me, nobody could do anything. And then I woke up, and Nancy, our sister, said to me, she was like, John, thank God you're still alive. We thought you were going to die. This is great that you're alive. And I was like, geez, Nancy, what the hell's going on here? I didn't even know what was going on. And she said, oh, John, I don't understand a word you say. You sound like a baby talking to me. And so I didn't speak at all. And my right side of my body was paralyzed. And I worked my ass off, worked really hard over the last year, and got all that stuff back. And now I want to teach people that's what they have to do, and give them some inspiration to be able to do it. So that's what I want to do now. If I can do magic, that'd be cool too.
So you're in Phoenix, right? It's Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix.
Mesa, Arizona, but close to
Okay.
Phoenix.
Okay. So yeah, I've done some work out that way in Tucson in August, which was hot as hell. But
Yeah.
so if you went to the stroke center, I imagine you went through a stroke center there, the hospital or wherever you were treated. They probably have what's the word I'm looking for? Like groups where you could volunteer. I'm sure after the COVID stuff that you could actually go or volunteer, or even if you pediatric units, and maybe it's not even in the stroke area, but just gather up some of your magic and volunteer at the hospital, going into see the kids and whatever. I mean, that's got to be just
I got to figure
heartwarming.
it out.
Yeah.
My hands are like this all the time. And they're not applauding. It's just they're shaking all the time, because that's part of my brain getting cut.
Right.
So I got to see what I can do. More than anything, I'd like, when somebody just had a stroke, there's not a lot I can do for them, because there wasn't anything anybody could do for me. I was just passed out, and here we go. And I got a big giant 50 cc, part of my brain was screwed up and burnt out. So I'm really hoping that I'll be able to then spend some time when mom and dad and brothers and sisters and whatever it is are there for the people that have a stroke. My thought is, what I really want to do is meet with all those people, meet them, on an evening when they're coming to get their kids, Have them see their kids or their mom and dad or whatever it is that are having a stroke, and then let me talk to them because they're freaked out. They don't know what a stroke is. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't get it. And if I tell them that here's the most important thing that you do, you have to keep them happy. You have to encourage them to be happy. You have to help them do what they can do. But keep a smile around your face and just always say, honey, you're going to be fine. You got to work hard, but you're going to be fine. And keep doing that. Then there's a good chance they're going to get out of it. But if you treat them like an asshole,
Yeah.
ain't going out.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great story, John. And, I think it's fabulous. And I would imagine that if you contacted the stroke center in your area, again, I have a medical background. After I left Tony, I went into medicine. I did pediatrics though, but so for 40 years I was in the medical field. But my point is that 2 weeks, 30 days, 60 days out from a stroke, depending on right side, left side, you're going to be in rehab. But right after that stroke, from I hear you're saying, is being able to meet with the family and saying, hey, your loved one there, that was me. And I can tell you what I went through, and I can tell you and give you some advice that might help you through this. It's a lot better coming from a patient and who has compassion and empathy like you than it is coming from the doctor. So I think that would be inspiring for you to be able to do.
That's what I'm hoping for. I've talked to all the people there that I've worked with in the last year, and they've all told me that's an amazing thing to do. You need to do it. You can really help people.
Right.
And some people will do it. Some people will get involved and will be inspired by it. Some won't. But that's the last thing that I just want to help some people. That's all that I can do. And that's what, it's funny that you were talking about that, but I've talked to all the people at the place, and the problem has been the coronavirus. They wouldn't let me in to do it. But when all this picks up again, then they said, yes, we want you to come talk to people.
What's your position about the virus? I mean, about the vaccine? Are you planning to get the vaccine?
I've had it. I've gotten it here because they gave it everybody here at this place where people. My sister had helped me find this place that I can, if I want to, I could spend extra money and get a doctor and get a nurse that comes to take care of me. I haven't needed that. Yeah. I just had needed my cat. So I have cats that are helping me. Yeah, and I'm going through this stuff on their own, and it's my wife and I, we've got our 2 doses. It's liberating. It's a liberating feeling. I know there's some vaccine hesitancy, and I know we're off the subject, but our age, I think in the next 30, 60 days there'll be plenty of vaccine, but that might help expedite your ability to do what you seems you're very passionate about doing. So that's great. Yeah,
I might tap. I might tap into some of your lighting design. I know you may not be able to help, but maybe you can with this show that I'm working on. I'd maybe get some advice from you at some time down the road. But
I'd be tickled out of my breath.
Oh, cool. Okay, man. All right, Joe. So what have you been doing since Tony Grant?
Mostly drums. So after I did the magic, I did JJ and his Thundering Drums, and as my video will show you, I searched for that drum head. I hand painted my own drum head for those days, but I kind of actually reached out to a couple of the other drummers from the show that I cannot find and that maybe haven't been found. And I don't know how many drummers from the show were actually, how many there were, but there was a guy named Armin Santarelli, and he was out of the Jersey area, and he was kind of a quiet kid. But he was a part of the drumming experience before me. And I did find him on Facebook and reached out to him, but he hasn't responded. Okay. So he was one of the guys that influenced me to actually start doing a solo drum show. Right. The other guy, Jimmy Fox, I know he's been talked about on the show. He was, definitely a charismatic sort of drummer. And again, can't be found. I think I reached out to him too, but can't be found. Okay. I reached out to some guy in Florida that I don't think is him, but he's a drummer. His name's Jimmy Fox. But
well, when we're done with the Zoom, I'll get all those names. I have Tammy Thornton actually just sent me a message while you were talking. She's from Atlantic City, but she's an investigative journalist. And on Facebook, somebody posted a picture of a young girl who sang on Tony's show, Karen Rich, and you can see some of the posts, and nobody could find her, but she went from Tony. She sang like an angel, and went on to do Ted Mack. She won the national championship on Ted Mack. Nobody knew this. So Tammy, she's an investigative journalist. So she found this person. I mean, now we have to try and navigate through the family, get permission and all this. We're not sure if she's alive yet, but anyway, my point is that if there's people that you want to find that might help round out your story, I get the names and you give us a general idea, like the Jimmy Fox guy or Armand who grew up in this area. If it helps round out the story, then we'll investigate and try and find where they are. Anyway.
So yeah, so those two guys kind of pioneered at the Tony Grants before me. So I kind of took a page out of their book and decided I would always been into drums before I was even into ventriloquism or magic. I started that at age 5.
Wow.
My grandmother gave me the first drum kit that was credible. I got the toy one initially, but we moved on into Grandpa getting me the credible one. So that's the one, Tony Grants. I searched for that drum head, could not find the drum head. What I did find were the drumsticks. So these drumsticks were special drumsticks. I talk about it a little bit on my video, but my first drum instructor, Sam Evans, out of the United States Army Band, got me these. He owned his own drum shop in Northern Virginia. And sadly, he's no longer with us. And there's another story, the story of that guy and the legacy that he left behind all the drummers. But he got me these drumsticks. These drumsticks glow under black light. So I bought myself from Spencer Gifts at the Springfield Mall the black lights, and I built myself the stands that those black lights would be in. Somehow, I think because of John actually had a little bit more experience with electricity than I did.
It sounds that way.
Up with my own foot-operated light show. So I bought the spotlights from the colored spotlights from the hardware store, Fisher's Hardware Store in Springfield, Virginia, and designed some stands for those. I bought a strobe light from the same Spencer's Gifts. So I incorporated a drum act with a light show. So kind of took something that they hadn't been doing. I'm sure Chris Collins was in the back flickering the lights or whatever when the other drummers were playing. And that might have spawned the idea for me to get a strobe light. I'm like, I can one up that. And I have my own, kind of repertoire developed scenario there. So yeah, I did the drum act there. And I don't have a picture from them. I know I had the 8x10s that I got from Tony Grant's show. I had at least 2 of them. Haven't been found yet, so still searching for those.
All right, cool.
So I did the Tony Grant show, and then I did the band thing there with, it's called Ooh Wah Ooh, and that was with a guy named Joey Gallagher. I think Joey Gallagher is one of the lost classic singers. I think he actually even emceed the show some of the time when Chris Collins wasn't available, and he kind of alternated a little bit. So he had a little bit of MC in him and actually sang on the show, and we got to know him. I think he was friends with David Brown as well. I know David has asked about Joey Gallagher many times to me, and I don't know where Joey went, but we became friends. And I came up to the shore that year when probably I was already doing this drum solo act, and I brought with my bass player friend from high school. I think we finished up around my sophomore year in high school, so this is just towards the end. And we put together a little doo-wop group, and we did the Blue Velvet by Bobby Vinton, and Joey sang and I sang backup and Alan sang backup and I played drums and he played bass. So that was another group, 3 groups total for me and the Tony Grant show. So that was a blast. And then you asked about where'd I go from there. So from there, high school, band, jazz band in high school, one of the top drum set players, I guess, in my high school, went on to Berklee College of Music and went through the music training. Graduated with honors from Berklee College of Music. I have my own business card. We had our own business cards back in the day too, John. I don't know if you remember, but we had business cards probably about age 10 for the Magic Duo. I've got a copy of that, as a matter of fact, for the memories. So yeah, I just went back to the Washington D.C. area. I was in tons of bands in the Washington D.C. area. I kind of rode the wave of whatever band or was doing and what the scene was doing at the time. So I definitely morphed through. If you go to my Facebook page, you will see so many different kinds of hairstyles for me and different bands that I played in, and always with the attempt to try to go big. My brother John actually tried to hook me up with an opportunity at one point, and this was with the band called, John, do you remember?
She was. I'm
You
trying
got
to remember what it was.
big hit songs. Steelheart. Steelheart out of Connecticut. So John somehow through lighting and stuff knew Steelheart, and I went up and met with those guys, and somehow the vibe didn't seem right for me, and they were kind of on their downswing anyway, so maybe it was a better move that I didn't join Steelheart. But they were a big two-hit wonder metal band that came out of those years.
That's like in the 80s, Joe, like in the 80s.
This must have been late 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. Late 80s. Okay. So opportunity for day job. I always worked day jobs in music stores, because I just kind of wanted to be immersed in entertainment. Mm-hmm. Became managers of Nobody Beats the Whiz, Strawberries, which was Waxy Maxis, all these company names, So I moved up and down their ladders. Finally got offered a corporate position up in Boston, so got relocated up to the Boston area and continued my pathway with different bands in that area, and it brings me to now. And now I'm most involved with a guy from Mexico that I met 10 or 12 years ago. His name is Andres Milan, and we have a duo show. So I'm back to a duo again, and keeping it tight and keeping it light. Bands travel heavy. Bands are a lot of mouths to feed. Mm-hmm. So the more light you can keep it in the world of entertainment, as you go through the pathway, probably the better off you'll be. So we work really well together. I do most of the writing of the lyrics, as a matter of fact, and the arranging of all of the repertoire. I put the set list together so that getting ready for a show, it's just been part of my life all the time, whether I'm going to work for my day job or going on stage as the Magic Duo or going to gigs. It's a preparatory process that kind of is a ritual that you utilize to put your act together. And again, then also on that day of the show to get your act on stage. I repeat that process. But I've actually taught Andres a lot about playing guitar and about singing, because he's never had a lesson in his life. And he's turned out to be one of my best friends, as well as probably the best music group I've played with. So I'm finally kind of coming into my own and playing Latin music, singing backup in Spanish, playing a box drum. And that's kind of where it's headed, And it's a very unique group. And I think with the right push, it actually could go much farther than it is. Andres is a family man. He's got 3 kids now. So it'd have to be a big push for him to push beyond. But locally, we're a big success during COVID. We do a lot of outdoor dining. Outdoor dining is getting ready to pick up again. So the ride's getting ready to ride. So I'm kind of getting geared up for that again.
Now, and I didn't go on your Facebook because I didn't want to have my mind so if I wanted to see you, and again, what is his name again? Spell his name for me.
My buddy's name is Andres Milan, and we're in a group called Andres and Joe. So it's like Andre with an S and Joe.
Okay, so
on YouTube.
On YouTube. All right, so I can pull something off of YouTube of you guys performing. Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the journey.
Joey,
It's all about the journey for me, and I like to keep the journey positive, and I keep riding the ride as long as the ride.
Right. So it seems like
And one of my most famous scenes is that scene in Titanic going down at the end. That's going to be me.
Yeah, that's cool. So for the journey for both of you, basically, you kind of stayed in that entertainment track, even though, John, you kind of went off the stage behind in lighting and things of that nature, but still part of the entertainment field. You guys kind of didn't drift outside of that into other professions.
That's exactly what we did. We realized most of it we were realizing along the way, but we really were talking about it. And that's what we've been doing all our lives, been in the entertainment industry. I remember Joe, he brought up a thing that I had forgotten about, but when he was working for the guy who was in the Army, Joe, what was his name?
Sam Evans.
And yeah, Sam Evans wanted to learn to play drums too. So I decided what I was going to do is I was going to go to learn how to do that too. And I was going to learn to play and da-da-da-da. Well, Joe was 10 times as good as I ever could be. And he was about 8 years old or 9 years old. And we would go and be in these big bands that played together, you know, all of us walking down the streets for big parades and that sort of stuff. And I mean, here's how good I was as a drummer. Joe would always be on the chung and I was always on boom, 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 boom. They thought I was big enough to play the bass drum, and I think it was just because I sucked at the rest of it. But I was always at the boom, 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 boom. You know, it was kind of funny, and everybody else was on that other stuff. What was the other thing? I wish I'd had the red jacket that you saw in the thing, because I know it would be great to have some of the clothes. I may have to, if I look closely enough, I may be able to find the bras that I got home with from the girls that I was with. But that's up to you.
Yes, I'd love to see them.
I loved the ladies there. They were great, wonderful, friendly, good people.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you know, again, you guys kind of went on, but you had your act together before you were on Tony, but and you were on there a good number of years. So it's an open-ended question, and you don't have to answer in the affirmative if it really doesn't matter, because I'm going to ask this in the terms of the documentary. But you know, Tony may not have directly inspired you guys to go on to continue doing what you're doing, but would it be safe to say that being in that environment certainly helps support the notion that, you know, I wanted to do magic, or I wanted to go into lighting, or I wanted to still do the drums. It's my passion, and it's just going to be my life through my life right now, especially Joe doing what you're doing. I mean, I guess I'm done talking. You guys kind of respond to that.
I'll just start by saying absolutely. I mean, he gave us our first theater to perform in on a regular basis, and to, you know, like I said, go through that ritual of being backstage. I have other pictures, by the way, to share with some of them of me being backstage and preparing and being amongst other performers and having to work with a limited amount of space while you're preparing to go on stage and do your big moment, you know? So the preparation, the just seeing the whole lighting thing, you know, the lighting thing was, even though it was probably very simple, John, I'm sure it kind of inspired you to do what you did, you know? Tony's demeanor on stage, the way he'd get down on one knee and call a kid back or call a kid out early, you know, that was inspiring, just to see him appreciate the youth and appreciate and treat them with kindness and tenderness, and really wanted to see everybody do well. And the spirit of that was a part of the show. And I think you can carry that with you as an important thing in your life, to try to bring out the best in those around you. Mm-hmm. So that spirit of Tony definitely rubs off on you. Tony Jr. had a different way of kind of handling that. He had the same role, but his style was a little different, you know, for sure, you know, but again, maybe that's part of the education of that too, is to seeing the different MCs and how they weren't the same person, didn't try to be the same person, but they had their own way of handling the performers. And, you know, that variety of leadership was a good thing to see. So for me, absolutely, the show gave me a platform to begin at, because before that, it was catch birthday party, a few big events. You know, I played in church. I started drumming in church. I was one of the first kids who started drumming in church. So that was one of my stages. But yeah, it gave us a stage, and you know, until we got to high school and started to perform in some of those stages, we didn't have any other opportunity like that. So it gave us a great platform to begin, very strong platform.
Yeah. Well, let me make a comment and then I'll let John talk. But you said something there that I kind of want to make clear. When you were talking about your life right now and with your band right now with your friend, and you spoke to the fact that preparation, that preparing for a show, getting everything ready, that kind of resonated with me. That's a skill or a trait that you kind of picked up throughout the years. But then when you just mentioned about on the Tony Grant stage, backstage, working in tight quarters, learning that at a young age now prepared you, because as you know, going out, on the road, you don't know what you're going to sometimes face when you show up at a club or wherever. And it's like, oh my God, we got to carry all this shit, back through this way and up that way. Hey, I've done it before. I learned how to do that when I was a kid. So anyway, I just I reinforces kind of what you said. So
absolutely, you got to learn how to pack a car.
Yeah, exactly. How about you, John? What do you think? Tony Grant helped you out?
Yeah, I think Tony was a great guy. I mean, he was warm he's a warm-hearted man that was just there not to ever manipulate anyone. If we had a problem out there, if I had a problem in the magic show or something like that, he would never, tell me, I can't come back or anything like that. He knew that I was trying and I was doing a great job when I was doing it. I remember one time there was a girl that I'd fallen in love with, and she was leaving and going away, and I was going to be there for another week, and I was working on my own in the magic, and I was going into the thing that I had mentioned was my was it? It was the one where whatever, it was one of these things that I did in front of everybody. I screwed it up, and it was the end of the thing, and I was like, okay, thank you. And they applauded for me, and I went back, and I just felt like an asshole. And he didn't say anything bad to me about it. I mean, I don't remember that much about his son, what he did. We didn't have a real close, we weren't really close to anything. The person who was even closer, Chris, was really great to us. He was really a nice fellow. I remember that David and I became really close. We got together after that place closed down, and we would get together in New Jersey, and we would do stuff together and that sort of stuff. But Dave and I would always we were about 16 years old or something like that, 15 years old, and we would always do goofy stuff to Chris. Like when he dropped a music to play, David and I went over there and meow, meow, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And he didn't throw us out or anything. He was really nice with us. Right. And we learned a lot. I mean, I got to say, as far as how could I have gotten into things as a magician? Well, maybe, but I got into stuff that was the theater. I got into stuff that was entertainment. I got into stuff that fed me, and maybe I could have been a magician, but doesn't really mind me that I didn't. I wish I could still do a lot of magic, but I just can't do it as well as I used to. I had a best friend, that my friend Tim Glancy was down in Key West, and he did a whole lot of stuff for the professional basketball players. When they had a problem, he would do stuff all over the country, doing stuff for him. And he was the person who did all this stuff for Jimmy Buffett, who was out with Jimmy all the time. And I became really good friends with Tim, and we lived together down in Key West for a while. But yeah, it was just really that stuff never would have happened. I would have never approached somebody who was working with Jimmy Buffett if I was just a Jimmy Buffett fan. I wanted him to use confetti because I was selling a lot of confetti then, and he was like, okay, and we ended up buying a whole ton of confetti from me. I was thrilled. But it was just all those things that kept together, where we could all work together with people like Joe. Joe knew who the good drummers were and the good musicians were that he wanted to be with, and what the difference was and how it worked. I knew who the people were that I wanted to work with, that I wanted to be part of, and that sort of stuff. And I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have had all that stuff if I hadn't had every summer going and doing something like that with Tony Grant, with Chris, with David, with the girls that were there, with all that stuff. Nobody was ever mean to us one way or the other. We all realized it was a show and we were trying to make it better. And I think that's what I really learned. There's a lot of people that get along, and there's a few people that didn't, but for the most part, it was really, really great experience for us. It got us really to got me where I got to. Just somehow did it.
Yeah. So, do you remember the young lady's name that you fell in love with?
I think it's Chris, somebody she was out of Connecticut, and I went and saw her there one time.
Oh.
She ended up getting married to somebody there. We said, I mean, I remember, especially it was the year that the guy singing "Wise Men Say Only Fools Rush In." He died.
Yeah.
You guys got to know who it was.
Yeah, Elvis.
Okay, yeah, Elvis, yeah. So she wanted me to sing that song to her every night before she went to bed. So I was singing that, and we just ended up not being something because I was in Virginia and she was there.
Yeah. But you sang that song to her every night when you visited her in Connecticut, or when you were on the Tony Grant show?
When we were on the telephone.
Oh,
after we left.
Yeah, because what I'm finding, and I appreciate you sharing with me. I mean, what I'm finding when I'm talking, doing these Zooms, people had these love interests and many relationships. I'm trying to find a young lady from Connecticut. And in the summer of 1970, we actually, for fun, I call it shits and giggles, we actually got married at the Clarendon up in the sunroom, all dressed up. And, there's pictures out there they can't find. But I'm finding that these little love affairs kind of happened, which is also kind of nice because we're 15, 16, 17 years old, and that's kind of nice. So, but I love that story, singing to her every night. That's awesome.
That was fun. And David was a great person to be with. I remember there was things he would have us do that I never imagined I was going to do. Is we would go, I remember one night we got out of the side window somehow, we got out of the place, and he wanted to go to a place called Tequila Sunrise. And I still remember we went there, I think it was once, maybe more than this, but just once, and we had tequila sunrises, and they were like, "Are you 18? Oh yeah." They're like, quite, yes, of course. And David was like that, and I was like that. I don't remember. Joe, did you go to that one?
Of course not.
What's that? No?
Remember, he played drums in church. If you're playing drums in church, more than likely you're not going to tequila.
I stood outside to look out.
I was drinking a lot of wine when I did stuff at church, especially as a guy in the middle of picking stuff up and taking the priest around. I enjoyed his wine.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, this is 1968, Virginia Avenue, which is where the Clarendon was. If you went down Virginia Avenue, not towards the beach, but the next block down, which would be the Pacific Avenue, there were burlesque houses down that street. And now figure I was like 15 years old, 14, 15 years old, and it was like 75 cents. So I went with a couple of the guys from the Clarendon one night. Why they let me in, I have no idea, but it was my first, young boy burlesque show. Ultimately tore them down, but there's a lot of those stories that I'm looking for too. Like you go into Tequila Sunrise, it'll be interesting with Tammy going back and actually finding where that is and showing pictures of it, so that if we edit, like John, you're talking about with David, of course I have to get everybody's permission, actually you talking about it with the voiceover and actually showing that particular bar or whatever.
Oh, that would be great. I bet that we could get together with David too and talk with him about going to Tequila Sunrise.
Again, we're in the beginning stages of putting this documentary together, but as these stories link themselves together, it's kind of really cool. Which now reminds me, with Steve K and myself, there was a guy that worked backstage, Frankie Hooper. Now he probably left after that, but he was like a stagehand, and he was gay, which fine. But he took us to, Steve K and I, New York Avenue in Atlantic City back in that day, was where a lot of gay and lesbian folks would stay and hang out. And there was a bar there. Oh my God, this is coming back to me. Holy crap. When you talk about Sunrise, Tequila Sunrise, and he took us there, you know, and I'm like, you know, 16 years old, 17 years old. And it was absolutely a wonderful experience. I mean, meeting some of these people, just delightful, just delightful. What a wonderful experience, you know. And so, you know, those stories will start to come out. And that just, from you telling me that story about, just ring that bell, that I totally blocked in my brain until you brought that up. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wow. Wow.
That's great. It was a wonderful life that we had. It made Joe and I have had pretty good lives. I mean, let's be honest. There's always some sort of shit come up to it,
Yeah.
but for the most part, we've always had good lives. We've created. Now that I'm 60 years old, I look back and I go, this was a good life. I really had a good life and enjoyed it and had a lot of pleasure in it and a lot of fun and that sort of stuff. And I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that's what I had. And, you know, I think that Joe's had an incredible life too for what he's done. We've all gone through bad times, but, you know, life goes on.
Life goes on.
As much as anybody would ever try to convince you against going into the arts fills your soul and enriches your soul. So you have a life now to look back on that had so many wonderful experiences that you wanted to have, as opposed to just chasing the almighty dollar. I mean, I'd love to have more money, sure, but you can't buy all those experiences. You
it just warms your heart. Now I'm 68, so I'm a little older than you guys, and so I think what you're going to find over the next few years, John, you said you were 60. Is as you move towards that wonderful age of 65, you will find yourself reflecting back on your life, at least for me. And, you know, I call it legacy time. It's when you start to, you know, you really find a whole new burst of energy in your life, believe it or not. Maybe when you bend down to get up, you'll grunt and groan a little bit. That's the physical body. But the spiritual body, the spiritual mind, I mean, it's a wonderful time. It's a wonderful time. So
We've all been lucky. We've been lucky that we've had this and had spiritual minds come after it, because there's lots of people in this world that think that what they've done all their life has been what makes them happy, because they've been doing something and they get to be 60 or 65 and they're like, no, this was not exactly what I wanted at all. This isn't the life I wanted. And we've been pretty good, you know. I mean, for Joe to continue ever since he was a kid, getting better and better at drums and becoming a good drummer and becoming, you know, a fantastic drummer. And, you know, I just knew I wanted to be in entertainment, and that's where I stayed. There was a couple times I tried to get a regular job where I was selling like the patios, the things that you go on, the wooden patios that you put in the back of your house.
Yeah.
It was stupid. The sad part was I never did really well with it. I just wasn't good at it. And there was a couple other things that I was good at, but for the most part, you know, I wanted to be in entertainment, and I wanted to help people, and I wanted to make people laugh and make people go, wow, and special effects, you know, wow, holy mackerel, you know, something like that made me just feel great, even though it wasn't as hard then because I knew what I was doing.
Wow. Well, I think, you know, with John, with you, and again, you know, I'll connect with you after the Zoom. You talk about special effects. This Three Dog Night show, one of the songs, and you guys can look it up, it's called Sure As I'm Sitting Here, is one of their, and Three Dog Night is a cover band. They didn't write any of their songs. I think Sure As You're Sitting Here was written by John Waits, but whatever. And when we're done here, if you fancy it, you can kind of just YouTube Three Dog Night, Sure As I'm Sitting Here. But how we're going to put this together is the cast will basically tap dance while seated on toilets. And the special effect here is the lead young lady here. She sits on a toilet, and it's basically an illusion. It's what's called a decolta chair, where the chair basically collapses and you go down through the trap. and she's covered with a sheet. And when the lead singer says, stop your complaining or soon you will be gone, we pull the sheet away and she vanished, which is kind of a fun thing. But I actually in my spare time I actually have these the feet that actually come out from underneath. So when they cover with the sheet, the feet come out so you can see the feet. There's a projector that I'm trying to rig up so you can see her shadow. She's already gone. She already went down the trap. But I might connect with you and kind of share with just to stimulate your brain a little bit. You might have some ideas because I need to do something at the end of one of the songs with like either confetti launchers or fire or something, smoke pots, fire pots or something like that. That you might say, what would be cool is, Dennis, why don't you do X, Y, Z? So I'll tap into your special effects background there too. So anyway,
sure, I can help you.
That's awesome. So what else, guys? I think this was great. And I know, Joe, you have pictures there and stuff. I mean, even if you took, snapshots of pictures on your phone and just, whatever, anything you come up with. And I think, John, you were kind of, I don't know, you look through some of your boxes one day, you might find that red jacket of yours.
You never know. That would be amazing. I don't know how that happened because all this stuff went on the road with me that I got now.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, a lot of my stuff got stolen when I was here, so I don't have much left anymore, just if anything. So because I went into the hospital for about 5 or 6 weeks when I was in my place, and it got robbed. So,
the only other thing I found, guys, remember how John had that red velvet jacket?
Right.
So when we were kids, Al Sowers, John, if you remember, lived down the street. He was also fascinated with magic. And you and I kind of started walking down the path of magic together. Al never did anything with it. You and I kind of went on and created an act. But his sister made this jacket for me.
Oh, nice.
He also made this shirt. So this shirt has the ruffles, So yeah, add a bow tie and it's all set. But not a bad find. This is one of 3 outfits that, like I said, I wore. John, at the beginning, I'll show you some pictures, but you and I had, I think maybe Susan, Al's sister, made us black vests that we wore. So I have some pictures of us just in black vests and white long sleeve shirts. And then you obviously found the red velvet jacket, and I had this one created. And I've got some other thing that I wore as well. But
now, how old were you, Joe, when you wore that outfit? How old were you?
I'm say 10 years old.
And I guess it doesn't fit you now.
Well, there's only one way to find out, Dan.
Let's try it on. Let's see. Oh my! Whoa!
Holy mackerel.
It's not a freaking fan, man.
If you're doing magic, that look like you rolled up your sleeves, so nobody has to worry about anything going up your sleeves.
That's true. Yeah, I'd have a hard time stuffing some doves down in that jacket. I'll tell you. Yeah. That's awesome. That's funny, Joe. That's really funny. Oh my God. Wow. All right, what else you got?
I think that kind of wraps it. I mean, I'll shoot you off the pictures.
Okay.
I've got pictures of us before doing magic. Actually, me before. I'll just hold a couple up. That's me, John. John, remember how I mentioned that table that we made that was not portable?
Yeah.
Well, that's the table in the background.
Yeah.
That's me doing another silk trick. Apparently, I like
the jumping silks. They jump. They move.
Yep. There's that one. This is backstage at Tony Grant's, just prepping.
Yeah.
You can see the teapot.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Remember that.
Wow. Now we're at backstage. I'm trying to get was that in a dressing room?
Yep.
Yeah.
Upstairs, it was next to Tony's office? Or
don't know the specificity on this particular one, but
next to where the store,
that'd have to be the boys' dressing room.
Yeah, the boys. Okay, so that was on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what this is or what group this is some act that was on stage and a couple of us backstage kind of looking out.
Oh man.
But some dance group out there.
Okay, that's
Nice.
cool.
This one is kind of faded, but you can see that it's from that same movie theater location.
Mhm.
And if you look close, and I've kind of worked with this picture digitally, so I have a better version of it. But you can see those vests that were made for us, John. So
Yeah, and that portable table. That's cool.
we had a lot of wardrobe changes back then.
I guess we did.
Wow.
I guess we did. It was a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know how we ever would imagine what our lives would have been like without having that much fun during the summer. If we were just sitting around, wondering what's going on, in regular life. But we just found ways to have fun and be entertainers. It was cool.
Wow.
We're lucky.
You
We're all
can't get
lucky. All three of us are lucky people.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
those kind of days where you could just go to the local mall and meet professional magicians.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have thunk it? I mean, I don't know that every mall during those days had a magic shop with magicians at it, but I just thought it was very cool that we had that.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, we were lucky.
All right, gentlemen, this was great. I really appreciate it. Before I leave, though, I forgot to do this in the beginning. I did record this Zoom session, and I normally ask permission that it's being recorded. And I will ask you both to affirm that it's okay to record it. I will never release any portions of this, edited or otherwise, without gaining your approval prior to, and that I would be held legally responsible for the release of that information without your approval. So hopefully you agree. We already did it, but it's okay that I recorded this session. Okay, great. That's awesome. Okay.
What are the odds that we could get a copy of it?
I'm sorry, say that again. I'm sorry, say that again, John. I missed that.
Is there any chance of us being able to get a copy of this thing that you recorded today, just so we could have it and look at it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. What I'll do when I'm done here is then I will then pull it down. I have to think of how I would get it to you. The only other thing that I'm either on a thumb drive, or if I can save it up into Google documents, and then you could pull it down from there, or I could actually put it on YouTube, private YouTube, that only the two of you, based on your email, could pull it down on YouTube.
Whatever works for you. I mean, if you just want to email it to us, that's okay. Or put it somewhere we can download.
I won't be able to email it because the file's going to be way too big. So, but it would have to go up in either that or I'm trying to remember the name. But I'll figure it out. But yeah, no, I'll definitely get it to you guys. So
That'd be sweet. That'd be sweet. I think this was a lot of fun. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yes, definitely. And John, I don't know, Joe, you may have sent me John's email.
I'll tell you too. It's john.johnjaworski.com.
John@johnjaworski.com.
Yeah, john@johnjaworski.com. Yeah, you know it, John.
Okay, awesome. Okay, very good. This is great. I'm telling you, I'm getting some really good footage.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun doing this and chatting and remembering things. And I was remembering things that even Joe was saying. So,
well,
cool.
Again, once I do David and record his thing again, we might just get him on one and just talk about that time in your lives and some of the fun, SHI, stuff you guys did, off of Tony Grant.
That would be awesome.
So I think that'd be kind of fun. Anyway. All right, gentlemen.
Dan, last but not least, I did take a couple of videos of me trying to find stuff. It's not of me. I mean, it was just me doing the shooting. So I'm just shooting me, looking through the attic, looking through, finding stuff. Do you want that?
I do. That'd be great. So it depends on how many minutes. Normally you could do up to like 2 or 3 minutes, where you could actually message me and pull the video over. You think that might work?
I'll try to Facebook Messenger you that.
Okay, that's okay.
Way to do it. And if I have a challenge with it, I'll let you know.
Okay, awesome. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Wow. Okay, man. Great. Thanks.
Nice job.
Okay,
All right.
we'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, John.